So we're gonna have a rematch. It looks like Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Maybe not, maybe not. Another Republican could beat Donald Trump. He could end up in the slammer. He could choke on a Filet-O-Fish. Joe Biden is already facing primary challengers. You've got Marianne Williamson, who is polling higher at this point than I think a lot of people in the mainstream media would have expected. And technically, the Kennedy as well, for what that's worth. So we don't know for sure. And other people could announce. We could have a big contested primary. It doesn't seem incredibly likely. So that said, the single largest likelihood is the rematch of 2020. And what do people think about that? Well, 38% of respondents to a Yahoo News poll said they felt exhaustion over the idea of a rematch. The other emotions that they feel, 29% feel fear, 23% sadness and fear. We have 23% reporting hope, 8% feeling pride. I want to talk to those 8%, and 7% saying gratitude. They feel gratitude to go through the 2020 thing again. By the way, that's general, the having Biden versus Donald Trump. 70% of adults in a recent AP poll, regardless of party affiliation, don't want Trump to seek another term in the White House. And so this is shaping up to be such an American election. Nobody really seems to want it, but we're gonna get it anyway. What do you think?
Well, I think it's going to be reminiscent, in my view, in terms of political science theory. You remember Obama-Romney, right? And usually, and the reason I bring it up is usually when a president runs for re-election, it's a referendum on those first 4 years. How did the president do? How's the economy doing? And what Obama did back in 2012 is he said, no, let's just not make it about me. Let's make my opponent so detestable with the car elevators and everything like that. So it's a choice election, not a referendum on the presidency. That's what you get if it's Biden versus Trump, right? It's not gonna be so much Biden focused on here are my accomplishments. He's gonna run very hard about, well, look at this other guy. Let's make a choice. Let's not make this on how you've done the last 4 years. Take a look at the alternative. And so it changes the dynamics a bit, and it makes it in some ways, Donald Trump he's a very controversial figure for all the reasons that we've said before, but it also changes a little bit of the dynamics in terms of the strategies and the advertisements. And so it's gonna be a bit of an unusual kind of presidential re-election race for an incumbent president. That's, we've seen it before, but it just makes it a little bit different. And to the point about people being tired, yeah, I get it. But I think, again, to my original point, I think people would rather be sort of bored or uninspired or have, a Joe Biden who's incapacitated. I think most Americans would still rather have that than have Donald Trump. And so in terms of the choice, sure, I think this should favor Joe Biden, should favor the Democrats.
Yeah, I think as of right now, that basically to me is how the polling looks. I'm sort of like trying to cast my consciousness forward a year through all of the ads, all of the insane conspiracy theories, like the stuff they're gonna come up with is gonna be something, but also the multiple trials. I mean, we've got the arraignment he's already had. We're gonna have that going forward. He's gonna be facing this rape trial like right now. I think that they're starting this week. We're gonna be talking a little bit about one of his other troubles going forward. So how will all of that, how will eventually something about January 6th, potentially something about the documents, like we have so many news cycles of scandals to wade through. And then I think about the 2020 election. It was incredibly close in terms of the total number of votes needed to swing the necessary states. And I think about how it was that close despite all that Trump had shown us of himself to that point across multiple years of his presidency, the drawing new paths of hurricanes and locking kids up at the border and just all the nonsense. And we were like half a year into his totally willful bungling of the worst public health crisis our country has faced in living memory. And it was still that close. Now, Trump is going to spend the next year reminding everyone of who he is. So there'll be a little bit of that, but I don't know. I can't say that I'm not worried. I think that Trump, as of right now, gives Biden the best chance. I think that someone like DeSantis maybe would have a better shot, but I am a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried.
No, and I think being worried, I think that's very valid, and I think I think people should be worried because, in my view, and putting aside Donald Trump for a second, I think that there's 45% of this country now, and mostly maybe 80-85% of the Republican Party that has absolutely no trust whatsoever in the basic institutions of our government, of our courts, of our politics, of our universities, of academia, of the economy. I mean, all of that. And so when people are that angry and that upset, there's this sort of attitude of, well, let's just burn everything down. That's where Donald Trump comes in, because not only did he, talk about, draining the swamp the last time, but now he would, nuke the swamp, and that's where he's going to go, is just destroy the deep state. And for a lot of people who are just saying, to hell with this society and where we're going, I just want to drop the nuke on our society and see what happens. That's, and so I think that's 45% right there. And the question is, well, what about, the middle 10 to 15% of the electorate? What do? Are they frightened enough by Donald Trump and think, okay, Joe Biden's been fine, let's just sort of give him another 4 years? Or is there something dramatic that changes the calculus?
Yeah, and we should also not write off, this, even forgetting the possibility of more legislative action over the next year. Republicans in multiple states have done everything they can to juice the system in their favor, passing laws to disenfranchise voters, taking over county boards of election, taking over some secretaries of state. Maybe all of that will have no effect, but the Republicans have sure fought for it. They seem to think that it's going to have some effect. And so if it ends up being Biden, my request to Dark Brandon would be, please don't let it be close, because the system is not set up for Democrats to win close elections.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.